I did it.
Sounds good.
It's not turning back.
All right. Practice test out. Facing front. Red writing utensil in hand. Feet off the chairs. Thank you. Looking at. Let me open this up real fast. 16.
Do you know Sister Mary Daniel actually looks like the
We're not starting conversations now. Number one. There are 4 things that flip inequalities. You should have all 4 of these. 2 of these require special conditions with parentheses. First one, multiplying or dividing by a negative number. Multiplying or dividing by a negative number.
I have a question.
If you have multiplying by a negative number and then dividing by a negative number as 2 separate ones, that does not work. Yeah,
Do they have to be in the same order?
not necessarily, as long as they're all there. So first, multiplying or dividing by a negative number. Second one, square rooting. Square rooting, however, put in parentheses, negative side only. Or you could put negative answer only. But please do not write square rooting a negative number. That is completely different and it's wrong. And it's also illegal. So square rooting, parentheses, negative side only, or negative answer only. Oh, thank you very much. Number 3, splitting. Splitting. Splitting, or you could say splitting an absolute value. Parentheses, negative side only, or you could put negative answer only. Does that make sense? Don't just put absolute value. That would be wrong, because absolute value is the opposite of splitting an absolute value. And 4th, reciprocals. Reciprocals. And it repeats in number 1. All right. Number 2, what would be the solution to the following inequality? X equals no solution. We'll go through that in a minute. No solution. Number 3, x equals all real numbers. X equals all real numbers. Next page. Number 4, there are 2 solutions. K equals 10 and k equals negative 14. This again, k equals negative 10 and k equals negative 14. I do want the k equals. Don't just put the numbers.
Is it positive 10 or negative 10? First time you said just 10.
K is equal to positive 10, k is equal to negative 14. Yeah, whatever I said. If it's not that. K equals 10, k equals negative 14. Number 5, n equals no solution. Number 6, m, 2 solutions. M equals 5 over 9, and m equals negative 1. It sounds lovely, but...
Not really.
You are blessed.
Bless you, Rosie.
You should sing
Oh.
Alg1.
Wait, was that you?
It was Bella.
Okay, bless you.
Bless
Go.
you, Isabella. Sorry, I don't know your name.
Listen. Listen, please, I can't hear. Go. Ladies, I cannot hear. Go. Ladies, excuse me. 3 times in a row. I cannot hear over you. Go.
It says write no solution, so if we just put no solution,
Technically the best is n equals no solution.
but would you count it wrong?
As long as the instructions say it, I can't mark it wrong. But the best one is n equals no solution. Number 6 again, m equals 5 over 9, and m equals negative 1.
What?
I just said it twice. M equals 5 over 9, m equals negative 1. Yeah, stay with me. Number 7, new one. N equals 2, n equals negative 4. So 2 solutions. Okay. Number 8, 9, and 10, you just had to give me a formula with x. Number 8, x is less than or equal to negative 6. X is less than or equal to negative 6. Number 9, x is greater than negative 3. And number 10, x is greater than 1. And it repeats up to number 10. All right, number 11. You have to do 2 things for these. You have to solve, so give me the k is less than or equal to or greater than or whatever, and then graph it. The solution on number 11 is k is greater than or equal to 8. K is greater than or equal to 8. So you should have a solid dot on 8 and shade to the right. I usually just lift it up a little bit and do an arrow to the right. Number 12, M is greater than 2. M is greater than 2. You have an open dot on 2, shade to the right. Any repeat so far? Yeah. 11 was K greater than or equal to 8. Solid dot on 8, shade to the right. Number 13, that's a triple inequality. 0 less than x less than 2. 0 less than x less than 2. The graph should have an open dot on 0, open dot on 2, and shade in between them. Did anybody have this by any chance? If you had 0, 2, open, open, and then 2 crisscrossing graph, like that?
Me.
Okay. That, I would give you most of the credit. I probably wouldn't take off much, but that simplifies, because this is an and problem. Whenever you have triple inequality, it's an and problem. Or an and would give you two different solutions on this. And means everything that's covered twice. So what's the only stuff that's covered twice? Anyway, yeah.
1, 0.
From 0 to 2. Correct. So here's the final solution. Open, open, and then shade everything in between. So it'll cover 1/2, 1/3, 1 1/3, everything between 0 and 2. So that's what the graph should look like in number 13. This one. If you did this, again, I wouldn't take off much. I might take off 1 or 2 points out of 10, just for not simplifying. But this is the best one. Number 14. That is a triple inequality. 1 less than n less than 4. There should be 2 open dots on 1 and on 4. Shade in between. And it repeats up to number 14. Okay, next one. Number 15, this is 2 separate ones with an or. You do need the word or. By the way, you can graph it before you decide on and or. That'll usually give it away. K is greater than or equal to 4, or K less than or equal to -1. Let me say it again. K greater than or equal to 4, or K less than or equal to -1. The graph should have a solid dot on 4, shade to the right. Solid dot on -1, shade to the left. If you remember, any graph that shades outward is or. Any one that shades toward each other is and, as far as we're concerned. Number 16, M equals all real numbers. Number 17, triple inequality. -5 less than R less than 8. That's -5 less than R less than 8. Should be an open dot on -5, open dot on 8, shade in between. Number 18, x equals no solution. And it repeats up to number 18. All right, 19 and 20 are extra credit. I'll give you the answers. Number 19 is an or problem. N is greater than 7. Or, and this one's a fraction, n is less than -27/7. So n is greater than 7, or, you need the or, and less than -27/7. Number 20, v is, this is a single one, v is less than or equal to, you could have either -5.2, or you could have -26/5. And that's it. And it repeats on the whole thing. Yeah.
It's not a repeater's question.
Yeah. Go
For 17,
Mhm.
you didn't make it the triple inequality.
Oh, if you did them separately?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Question is, what if you didn't do a triple inequality? There's one other way you can get the right answer. If you use an and. you should have r greater than -5 and r less than 8. And I don't care what order they're in, as long as both of them are there. Yeah, that's true also for number 13 and 14. You could give them separately, but use the word and in between. Any other repeats? Alrighty. Rest of the hour, questions? Anything you want to go over? Brendan, go.
Can you please do
Doing okay?
sorry. Can you please do no?
You want a few minutes?
I'm sorry. Can you please do 12?
12. Alright. Number 12 is a solve and then graph. Quick question. Just right back. Looks like this. Number 12 looks like this. M minus 6 minus 4 is less than 4 parentheses 3m minus 8. And then minus 7 parentheses m minus 2. My suggestion, simplify this thing first. There are a lot of very easy things you can simplify right away. Look on the left-hand side. What is this really? Yeah,
-6 minus 4,
Which
which
is?
is -10.
yeah, do the m minus 10, or m plus negative 10, is less than, how do you simplify the right-hand
Oh
side?
my gosh, that's how I got it.
Jack, take over. How do you simplify this thing? Is there anything you can do to it? Sorry. Look at the parentheses. And the thingy in front of the parentheses. I'm sorry? You'd have to do that to both sides, and I'm not solving yet, I'm simplifying. You're on the right track, go.
You could distribute.
Distribute.
So it'd be 12m minus 32.
Yeah.
Minus.
Now, be careful on the next one. Mio Galini, take over. What about this thing?
It's gonna be -7m
Plus 14, good. A lot of people put -7m minus 14 by mistake. Negative times a negative is positive. That's why I did add the opposite on this one. I do add the opposite on all these, forgive me. Now what? I wouldn't start solving it yet either. There's still some simplifying to do. Andy, take it over. Is there anything you can collect together?
On the right side, you
Like what?
have just 5m.
Yeah, these combine make, so m plus -10 is less than 5m, and then what?
Plus, or no, yeah,
Yeah, that's
plus
fine.
negative 18.
That's the simplified version. Now you can start hacking away on both sides. Eric, take over. What do you do if you have m's on both sides?
You can subtract it from the side.
Yeah, which one do you want to subtract?
Draw the one on the left.
Sure. So you subtract 1m, or just m. Does that flip the sign?
No.
No, subtracting never does. So what do you get?
-10 less than 4m plus -18.
Correct. Take over, Mary. Add 18, correct. Does that flip the sign? No. What do you have so far?
8 is less than 4.
One more step. What do you get?
2 is less than
2 is less than m. However, that's backwards. What is it really?
m is greater than.
M is greater than 2. That.
Get that.
Oh, sorry to hear that. Do you know what went wrong?
Yeah, kind of. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. We also need to graph it. Open or close dot? Yeah, quick question. Oh, again, next question.
Yeah.
Open or close dot? Brendan.
Open.
Open. The only number we really need is what?
2.
2. Open dot, and which way do you shade?
2. Sorry. It'd go to the right.
To the right.
Yes.
That's one of the many reasons why I don't want you to just leave it as 2 less than m. Anybody see why? Because a lot of people would be fooled into shading which way?
Good eye.
To the left, because the arrow's pointing to the left. The letter has to be on the left-hand side to do that trick. So m is greater than, shade to the right. Some people can do this in their head. They say, well, m is bigger, so I'm going to shade to the right.
Wait.
I get nervous. I just wanna write it in the proper form and then shade it, yeah. quickly.
So whichever way, like the side's pointing, it's that's the way it's going? Like for the gradient.
If the variable's on the left-hand side, yes.
Okay, yeah.
If the variable's on the left-hand side, then yeah, you can just follow the sign. If it's pointing to the right, you shade to the right. If it's backwards, all bets are off. You'll get the wrong answer if you do that. Mary, question?
Can you do
11, yeah.
That's the one I got right.
So 8 parentheses, can you read it out for me?
8 parentheses, k plus 7
Okay.
is less than or equal to -2
Uh,
parentheses, -8k
plus 4? Okay. What do you do first? Isabella, take over. Yeah, what's going?
Distribute.
Distribute it, yeah. Go ahead and do it on the left-hand side. What would you get?
8k plus 15,
Multiply
or,
that.
56.
Yeah, good. And by the way, simplifying, I'm not even doing stuff to both sides, so don't worry about flipping the sign yet. Rosie, take over.
You distribute the -2 then.
Okay.
So then it'd be 16k.
Yep.
Plus -8.
Good. Keep going. I got K's on both sides. How do you cure it?
Add 8k to both sides.
Almost.
And subtract.
Subtract, yeah. Does that flip the sign?
No,
No. Adding and subtracting never do. What is it so far?
it's less than or equal to 8k.
Yep.
-8.
Plus -8.
God
Good.
bless you.
Take over, Mia Jackery. Now you can start getting K by itself.
Can you take out a GCF of 8?
You could, although it probably wouldn't save you any time. That's not a bad idea, but we can solve this with algebra because there's only one species of K. So, I want to get K by itself. What do you get rid of first?
Add 8,
Yes, good, as long as you do it too.
both sides.
Does that flip the sign? No, so cancel. What do you have so far?
Oh, it's 64.
Uh-huh. Is,
Less than or equal to 8k
keep going.
divided by 8.
Good, does that flip the sign?
No,
Why not?
because it's not negative.
Right, we're not dividing by a negative. So what do you have now?
8 is less than or equal to k.
Correct. And what's the correct way to write that?
K is greater than or equal to 8.
Exactly. And Jenna, how do you graph this thing?
So you have 8,
Yeah, the only number you really need is 8. Solid or open depth?
open, solid,
Which one?
I don't know.
Okay, so we'll look at here and it'll tell you.
Open, I mean solid,
I don't
solid.
know, just back up. Whenever you fill in bubbles on a standardized test, like you fill in bubble C, is that the problem? Is it because that's the choice you want or because the choice you don't want?
Which you want,
It's the one you want. If this is equal, that means we want 8,
then
so you fill it in.
Yeah,
Just like the same thing, so it's solid whenever it's equals. If they were just plain old greater than, that'd be an open. And then which way do you shade?
to the right.
Correct. As long as you have a letter on the left-hand side, you can just follow the sign. Brendan, question?
Can you use number 7?
Any other questions on this, first of all? Yeah. Actually, Mia, then, you double dip, go. Oh, sure, go ahead, go for it, that was easy.
Can you use 7?
I'm sorry, 7 you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Skip up a little bit, number 7. Is everybody okay on these? Any questions on these? Number 12 and 11? All right. Number 7 is a splitting problem. Be a little careful. 8 minus absolute value of 3n plus 3 equals -1. Everybody look up here. I'm about to give you something that could foolproof your problem. First of all, can I distribute the negative into the absolute values?
No,
Never distribute into absolute values, ever. Later on in college or something, there are certain ways you can. There are only certain things you can distribute in and certain things you cannot. But for right now, never distribute into absolute values. Never, ever, ever. However, you see the minus? Add the opposite. What number is in front?
Oh my god.
1. Don't distribute it in. That's not why I did it. But leave the plus negative 1 there.
Oh, see,
So then
I
7.
knew that.
Now, cancel the 8. A lot of people probably were tempted to add 8 to both sides because it looks like they're subtracting 8. That's only if the 8 were at the end, minus 8. If it's 8 minus, the 8 is positive. So it's got to be subtracted off. So we're going to have, cancel, negative 1 times the absolute value of 3n plus 3 equals negative 9. Divide both sides by negative 1. Absolute value of 3n plus 3 equals positive 9. If you had put no solution, that's probably because you didn't divide by a negative 1. This thing can now split. Add, subtract. So 3n plus 3 equals positive 9, and 3n plus 3 equals negative 9. Brendan, solve for me.
Oh, minus 3.
Yep.
And then.
I was gonna say, does that flip the sign, but never mind.
No, and then,
Equals-
divide by, it equals 6.
6,
And then divide by,
3. And what do you get? N equals
oh my,
There you go.
2.
2. Good.
I'm so dumb.
No, you're not.
I mean, I'm not dumb, but.
Yeah, good save. And then 3n equals negative 12. Divide by 3. N equals negative 4. Does
Fine.
that make sense? Quick trivia point, by the way. Look up here. If I divided by a negative, this is a semi-trick question. If I divided by a negative in here, does that flip the sign?
Yes.
It does.
Oh, wow.
Does it make any difference?
No.
Watch here. Here's an equal sign. I'm gonna flip it.
Oh my.
It's still an equal sign. Mathematically speaking,
John, you're such an evil mind. Oh my gosh, John. I'm sorry.
no. Seriously,
John.
I'm not. Don't even go there.
Yes,
But
John.
let's try it this way so it doesn't look quite so bad. Ta-da. So, when you flip an equal sign, it does flip this, but it doesn't make any difference. So, Jack. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was just laughing.
17, you said? Yeah. Okay, look up here, please. Yeah, any disrespectful gesture was completely accidental and utterly not planned, so yes. That's not what I did. Please accept my apologies if that came across
I
like
was just laughing. You're
that. 17. Can somebody read that off for me? Jack, can you read off number 17 for me? Shh. By the way, save the extra questions for a moment. Go ahead, Jack.
Negative 6 times absolute value of 2r minus 3
Okay,
and minus 1
minus 1.
is greater than negative
79?
79.
Okay. So I want to get r by itself. Actually, Jack, help me out. What would you get rid of first?
The 1
The 1. How?
plus 1.
Plus 1 to both sides. Does that flip the sign?
No.
No. So you get what? What's left so far?
Negative 6 times absolute value of 2r minus 3
Good.
greater than negative 78.
Good. Negative 78. Next step, what would you do?
Divided by negative 7.
Good. Some people are tempted to add 6 here. This is not a subtracting 6. If it's in front, it's multiplying. So you have to divide by negative 6. Does that flip the sign?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
That's why I got that.
So absolute value is still there. Don't drop those. But this flips to less than. And then, how many times is 6 going to 78? A minute? 13. Positive or negative 13 in this case? Okay. Positive, because the negatives cancel. Since this is a positive answer, it's not a no solution or all real numbers situation. So take over, Maria. How do you get rid of the absolute values? Split, correct. What do you put on the left-hand side? And then this one?
2r minus 3 is less than negative, or greater.
Yeah, why that?
Greater than negative.
Yeah, the negative side of a splitting flips, and then what would this be?
Does?
Splitting is one of the four things that flips
Oh my
inequality signs.
gosh.
And this is negative 13, good. So is everybody clear on that? Whenever you split, the negative side will flip its sign, its inequality sign. For a second. Keep going, Rick. Do the left-hand side for me. Add, add 3. Does that flip the sign?
No,
Okay, so what do you get?
2r is less than 16.
Nice, one more step.
Divide by 2.
Okay, R is,
Is less than 8.
exactly. So grab that one and save it. Mia Jackery, take over. Solve.
Add 3.
Does that flip the sign?
No,
No, what do you get?
2r is greater than negative 10.
Good, keep going.
Divide by 2.
Okay, does that flip the sign? No, so R is,
Greater than is negative 5.
question. And or? How would you tell? There's one extra step you can do that'll make the and or much easier. Graph it. Jana, go for it. What two numbers do we need?
8 and negative 5.
Right, make sure you put the negative 5 on the left-hand side. What kind of dots, open or closed?
Open.
Which one?
Um,
Do you want 8 or no?
no.
No,
So, open.
leave it open, exactly. Do you want negative 5?
No.
No, only if it had been equals, so good, open. Which way do you shape from the negative 5?
To the left. To the right.
Yeah, just follow the sign. And how about from 8?
To the left.
Is this gonna join or go apart?
Join.
Join. And or?
And.
And. That's and. Correct.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
When you were reading the things,
I gave you a triple inequality.
yeah, is it
There are
fun-
2 possible right answers.
Oh, so mine
This
was
is
one.
okay, as long as you had the word and. If you don't have the word and, then you'll lose points. If you have the word or, you'll lose lots of points. But you can, if you want, any and problem can be a triple inequality.
Wait, so if you
Like if
just,
you look at the graph, it's actually pretty easy. It goes from negative 5 to 8. It'd be negative 5 less than x less than, or not x, what letter we use? R. There.
wait, so if we did r is less than 8 and r is greater than negative 5, is that fine? Like,
As long as you have the word and, yes, I'll accept that perfectly.
And do we not need the and if we do a triple inequality?
Correct. Once a triple inequality, that has an and
That
built
covers
in.
the and, yeah. Okay.
Correct. Correct. So whichever one you like. Mio Galene.
How do you know if it's
And or?
How do you
Okay.
know like the arrows don't keep going?
Oh, they do, but basically, if everybody had a graph like that,
Really hit your head hard.
what I wanted was all the things that were covered twice.
How do you
In other words, well, let me, do you remember how you test, like if you do an algebra problem, how do you test if your solution is correct? Plug it in.
Yeah.
Look at the original one. We have negative 6, absolute value of 2r, minus 3, minus 1, greater than negative 79. Now, question. How do you know it doesn't just go forever? That's a very good question. Try it. Can anybody pick a nice, easy number on, to the right of 8? 10. That's not good. Let's try 10 and see if it works.
1,000.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Plug in a 10 here. What's 2 times 10?
2 times 10?
Yes.
20.
Yeah, we're plugging in at 10. We're just going to see if it works. 2 times 10 is 20, minus 3.
20.
Follow what I said, please.
7.
17. Now, mental math. Mental math, people. What's the absolute value of 17?
17.
17. What's 17 times negative 6?
Negative.
I have no idea.
Negative
Hold on.
the answer.
6 times 7 is 42, carry the 4, 6 minus 6, and so it's gonna be negative 102,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and then minus 1,
Negative.
negative 103. Is that greater than negative 79?
Yeah. No, no,
It
no,
is
no,
not.
no.
Think of temperature. Is 103 below warmer than 79 below? No, it is not. This failed. So in other words, the only ones that work, whenever you have absolute value, it's either going to shade outward or inward. And so if you want a really quick way to do, if you have an absolute value problem, there's a very quick way to test and versus or. There's actually two ways. Here's the quick way. If you graph,
Sorry.
if the graph shades outward, it's or.
Oh.
If the graph shades inward, it's and.
It's
So,
epic.
so if they face towards each other,
It's got to be and, guaranteed.
Oh.
Correct.
Let me
Right.
write that down.
There is another way, unless there's no solution, in which case that's not our fault.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
Yeah, that's, and then
Or.
I will also tell you a shortcut. This is optional. If you don't like this, just pretend this is a bad dream and never heard it.
It is.
If you have an absolute value of, something or other, is less than an answer, I guarantee you it's going to be and.
Epic.
If you have an absolute value of some other stuff greater than,
You can't choose.
guaranteed to be or.
Wait, what
Unless
if
it's a no solution, in which case it blows up everything.
what if it's not?
Now keep in mind, what?
What if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
This always works unless it's no solution,
Oh, okay.
or all real numbers. Yeah, one of the two weird solutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain the difference in no solution and all real numbers again?
Yes.
I'm confused on that.
No solution, first of all, can somebody tell me what an absolute value is? Go.
It's
What's the definition of absolute value?
absolute value is the thing box inside the two boxes.
Yeah, yes, true. John.
The distance away from zero.
It's a distance away from zero. The distance away from zero is always what kind of number? Go.
Positive.
Positive. What's the lowest it can ever go?
0.
0. Now technically 0 is not positive, it's neutral. But it can never be what kind of number? Negative. So absolute value is always non-negative. So if you have an absolute value with a negative answer on the other side, that's going to be one of those two weird solutions. So first of all,
How do you know which is which?
good question. So the first question, I'll get those later. Look up here for a quick second. I'll give you a quick test. I didn't want to erase that.
Just want to have a test. Cut.
Suppose you have this. I'm just going to make up absolute value, blah, 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 is greater than negative 3. I don't even care what the inside stuff is. Absolute value bigger than negative 3. What kind of answers come out of absolute value?
Or.
All real
Two.
Positives, or what's the lowest it goes? 0. If this stuff has to be 0 or above, what do you think of this?
It's or.
It's right.
Is it true or false?
False.
It's
True.
No, it's true.
Don't just guess.
It's
True.
greater.
It's true because.
Is 0
But it could be
bigger than negative 3?
Yes. No,
What's that?
but it's gotta be absolute. Yes, it is true.
It is true. How often?
Always.
If you say
All real
always,
numbers.
that's all real numbers. Always is all real numbers. Now try this. Absolute value of blah, 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 blah,
Oh.
is less than or equal to negative 5.
No. It's false. Because it's equal and it's less than. So it actually goes.
Yeah,
next to
this is claiming this is going to be 0 or up. There's no way it'll be below negative 5. How often is this true?
it. Never.
Never. So how many solutions? None. No solution.
I understand now.
Make sense? Yeah.
So are you gonna have problems that are like no solution and stuff?
One or two. Not bucket loads.
How about just the whole test?
These were so confusing.
It'll make it very easy.
Next. Got about 15 minutes. I think I've got about 4 or 5 questions if we go fast. And extra credit are eligible as long as we get all the regular questions out of the way first.
I have a question.
Any other regular questions?
Yes.
Yes, go.
Uh,
Somebody can.
might take a minute.
Okay.
No. No.
Here, question. Go.
Uh,
Keep looking it up. Go.
So for 2 and 3 it says y, what would we put
Oh, that basically means show your work. For number 2, for example, yeah, that's a good question. Look at number 2. Go back to number 2. 3x plus 5. Yeah, I gotta erase this. Hang on. 3x plus 5 less than 3x plus 2. Now the good news is there are no absolute values. You don't have to split or anything like that. But it's a shooting cows problem. I got to get the x's out, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. But something very strange happens.
Your death.
What's left?
5 is greater and lesser than 2. That's wrong, so it's actually
Whenever you have a weird solution like this, take a look and see if it's true or false. Actually, Eric, tell me, is 5 less than 2?
No.
No. How often is it less than 2?
Always. Never.
Never. So if it's never true, what kind of solution are we talking about?
No solution.
That's the work I need.
And then the other
If you basically say it solves to 5 is less than 2, wow, 5 is less than 2,
True.
and it's never true. That's all the work I need. If it's never true, then no solutions will work. If it's always true, then all solutions will work, all real numbers will work. Speaking of which, look at number 3. Can anybody tell me why that's all real numbers? Yeah.
Because there's a negative thing, and you can't do the splitting with the negative thing.
Correct.
And,
So you can't split.
And if you eventually like do it down, it basically be. Oh no, I understand now.
Okay.
The absolute value of 2x minus 5 is greater than -2, and it's always positive. The absolute
Correct.
value thing.
It's
So
0 or
actually
up,
all
so
real
it has to be
numbers.
above -2. Always and
So
forever.
big.
Correct. All right, that's number 2 and number 3. Any other questions?
No.
Other than extra credit?
No.
Okay. Yeah, as well. 13. Yes, that's a triple inequality. If they give you a triple inequality, feel free to give me a triple inequality as an answer. Solution. Here's what it looks like. 9 less than 6x plus 9. Yeah, sorry, this is number 13. And this is less than 21. So Isabella, take over. What are you trying to get by itself? X. What do you need to get rid of? Don't get distracted. These are 2 answers, so don't ignore those. The positive 9. How? Right. From all 3 sides, correct. -9, -9, -9. Question, does that flip the signs? No. So it should be, what's this going to give you? 0. Good. Don't just put a blank. That's tempting. Look up here, everybody. Don't just cancel this and forget this side altogether. I need something there. It's got to be 0. It is less than what? Go ahead.
Less than 6x.
6x, which is less than
12.
12. Good. One more step.
Divide every side by 6.
Correct. I hope you're not superstitious.
You're anti-Christ isn't a
No, go ahead. What's 0 divided by 6?
6, 6, 6.
0. Does that flip the sign? No. So less than x, which is less than. Got it. Everybody look up here. This is the half of the problem, half the points. They want you to graph it. How do you graph something like this?
I know.
Go.
You have a 0 and a 2.
Open or closed dots?
Open.
Good. Where do you shade?
In between.
Yes. How do you tell?
Oh,
If x is in between, you shade in between.
yeah.
That's the quick way to remember that. Done. Could you write them separately and graph them separately and then do the and? Yeah. But that takes twice as long. Basically, if x is in between the 2 numbers, you shade in between the 2 numbers. Make sense? Next. Any other ones? Without tunes, please. Any other regular problems? All right, if you find one, we'll circle back to it. Any questions on either 19 or 20, the extra credit ones? There is a trick to them. 19? Yeah. I'll give you a hint.
Yeah, I'm done with my 11th page. I mean, my 10th.
You're eventually going to do the machine gun method.
No, my 10th.
Let's try this. 17 over 4.
But you have to have it done by tomorrow. Wait, are you giving them?
Absolute value. 7 over 10 n. Minus 11 over 10. Plus absolute value. Plus 5/3 is greater than 1,069. I'm pretty sure that scared a bunch of people off. Over 60. Just pretend this is a regular algebra problem. You're trying to get n by itself. What do you get rid of first? Everybody catch what I just asked? Trying to solve for n. What do you get rid of first? 5 over 3. Subtract 5/3. What's my name?
Yeah, I don't remember.
But there's a catch. The left-hand side is easy, they just cancel. But how do you do this? You need something. Yeah, you gotta get a common denominator. So what is this?
Wait, what?
This is, how many times? Yeah, negative 100, good.
Yeah.
Because it's 20 times bigger. So you make this 20 times bigger. So let's worry about these. These cancel. What's 1,069 minus 100? 3. Yeah, well. 17/4, let me just recopy this. 7 over 10n, what was that? I heard it. 969, correct. Is greater than 969 over 60. Now what do you do? What do you get rid of next? The 17 over 4. How? Divide by it. How do you divide by a fraction? By the reciprocal, correct. So I'm going to, dividing this, to just cancel, that's fine. Multiply this by the reciprocal.
It switches the sign.
Does it?
No.
It does not actually, because we're not dividing by a negative. We're just dividing by the reciprocal, which is fine.
Oh,
So it still stays greater than. You still have the absolute value. 7 over 10 and minus 11 over 10. Still greater than. Question, does this reduce? You will be thankful if you do.
Wait, why is that reciprocals switch the sign?
Opposite reciprocals, you might be thinking of perpendicular things. So short answer is no. What's the reciprocal of 2 over 3? Yeah, it doesn't turn negative. Only negatives will flip the inequality sign. Oh, if you're talking about taking the reciprocal of the whole thing. Oh, like the fourth category, when you're talking about reciprocals. Dividing by a reciprocal is not the same as taking the reciprocal of the whole side. Let me just show you an example. If I have 1 over x is less than 1 over 3, take the reciprocal of both sides, x over 1 is greater than 3 over 1. And that really means this x is greater than 3.
So
That's legal?
That is, as long as you do to both sides, you can do anything you want to both
That's
sides.
legal?
Yep. But reciprocals like that flip the signs. And there's a reason I'm not doing this in this class. We're waiting to pre-calc. There's actually more to the solution than this, which we take a long time to explain. But for now, look up here. I got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to start speeding up a little bit. Write this down now.
Okay.
4 and 60 do reduce. How many times does 4 go into 60?
20 times.
15, I heard it.
15.
This is 1 and 15. Does 17 go into 969?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
57. What is your problem?
So it goes in 5 times is 85. 119 is 7. And yes, it goes in
Why are
perfectly.
you so good at it?
Because I already did that.
This goes down to 1
No, I stopped.
and 57.
So it's 57 over 50?
Yes, 57 over 15, which is much nicer.
I just didn't start.
Ladies, time to stop talking. Gentlemen, that's not talk. Face front. Do you have notes out, not Now this, next step, split it. Correct. I'm gonna erase this part so I have more room. So I'm just gonna split it here. It's 7/10 and minus 11/10 is greater than 57/15. And the other one is 7/10 and minus 11/10. Does this flip the sign?
Yes.
Yes, on the negative side. Less than negative 57/15. This time, you can trot out your machine gun. You can multiply both sides by what? What would work?
10.
15.
I mean, it's gotta work for both of them.
10.
30.
Oh.
30 is good enough for all of these. Multiply everything by 30. This is actually gonna be rather nice, and it's gonna be rather, excuse me. Thank you. Look over here. Do you see the 30 times 30? Look over here. Everybody look up here. You won't know what I'm talking about otherwise. What's times 30 divided by 10? Man, all right. All right, thank you. That becomes a 3. What's 3 times 7 is? 21. Yeah. See that? It got much, much nicer. This thing, 30/10 is 3. Multiply. Minus 33. Multiplying by 30, does that flip the sign?
No.
No. It still stays greater than. 15 and 30 reduced to what? 2. 2 times 57 is like 114.
114.
This side, I'm going to do the same thing. This turns to 3. This turns to 3. This turns to 2. It becomes 21n minus 33 is less than negative 114. Now solve. I'm going to do this real fast. Add 33. Does that flip the sign? No. So 21n is greater than 147. That goes in perfectly.
7 times.
N is greater than 7. The other one, add 33. What's a better marker? 21n is less than, oh man, 81? Negative 81? Now divide by 21. Almost out of time. Wow. What goes in 81 and 21? What is it reduced by? 3. How many 3's in 21? 7. How many 3's in 81? 27. It's negative 27/7. Negative 7, negative 27/7. There's one last thing to do. And or. Graph it. It'll probably tell you. Here's negative 27/7. Open dot to the left. You can probably predict right now. 7 to the right. And or. Or. When they face outside, or. Done. It's tedious, and I'll give you a hint on number 20. Do the same thing, but the machine gun method. Don't start talking. Look at number 20. Everyone. Look at number 20. See the thing with decimals? Getting fractions out means you multiply by a big enough number. Same thing with decimals, only what kind of number do you multiply by to move the decimals out of the way? 10, or possibly 100 or 1,000, however many spaces you need to move. Here, eventually you're going to machine gun it with multiplying both sides by 100. That'll get the 2 decimal places out of the way for the 19.07. Then it'll just be whole numbers and then just solve. And there are no absolute values on that, so you don't have to split. That is all. So please rise.
Do 19/5. And then,
Oh heavens, to Murgatroyd, yeah. Yeah, then the multiply will be smaller. Sure. Then you just multiply by 10. Let us pray. Everybody ready? In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. All right. See you. See y'all later. Somebody hit the record button. See y'all
I
later.
can't. No, you can. Or